Oh, good morning, good morning. Nate here with the Volunteer Tech Vlog on the Live Sound 101 YouTube channel. Oh, this is the vlog where I drive in my car and talk candidly about live sound, pro audio, video, and basically let everybody know about my Live Sound 101 video series, which has parts 1 through 8 up there live right now, and I'm gonna go back to it in the future. It's kind of like a long project I'm working on, and then this vlog kind of goes with that project and the whole point of it is to teach somebody the basics of live sound. So somebody who's brand new, that maybe doesn't know anything, is intimidated by all the buttons and knobs. That's kind of who that video series is dedicated towards. Right now I have a garbage truck that is preventing me from backing out at the moment. So before I drive, I'm just gonna have a little chat as the garbage man does his thing. And this video, I want to talk about AV news. So this is another AV news segment. I was looking back in the history of the YouTube channel, because I have playlists for every different category, like for the vlogs and for AV news and for Live Sound 101, and then for audio lessons and feedback, where I respond to feedback. So I've got different playlists for different categories of these vlog videos. And one of the categories I set up was AV news, in case there was something big to talk about. Excuse me. And I think the big thing to talk about that you should be thinking about if you're in the church tech world or the pro AV space, one of the big things to think about is broadcasting technology and what people are doing and what's out there. And so with that, the big news is, well, I should say it's almost big news. You should be thinking about it. You should have your eye on it. It's called ATSC 3.0. So you may be familiar with, in 2009, we had the big shakeup in the TV broadcast world, where we were broadcasting in analog using the NTSC standard. And then that switched over to ATSC, and the broadcast went digital, and with that they also were able to go HD. And you had this program from the government where they would subsidize a digital converter box, and it was a big mess. To be honest with you, there was all kinds of confusion on the consumer side, because they're like, well, what do I need, and will it work? And it's like, well, if you get the converter box, like, you'll be able to pick up channels, but then you won't get the HD goodness, because it's converting it back to the other format. And it was confusing. And I think a lot of people just kind of gave up on over-the-air TV. And I didn't. Actually, 2009 is when I became a cord cutter, and I was like, sweet, I can get HD channels for free over the air. This is awesome. But that was ATSC 1. And it wasn't even really known as ATSC 1. It was just known as ATSC, because it was different from NTSC. Well, now they're working on ATSC 3.0, and I guess the news is they're on track to have the standard released in the spring of 2017. Now, that's just the standard being released. That's not like any changes happening yet, but excuse me, garbage truck is gone, so I'm gonna back up now. Let's drive. So the standard's on schedule to be released in spring of 2017. And it's just something that you should be keeping your eye on, because ATSC 3.0, I mean, you hear these terms all the time. You hear the term paradigm shift, game changer, disruptive technologies. And I think sometimes those phrases are, they might be overused at times, but I do think that ATSC 3.0 has potential to completely change the broadcasting landscape in terms of what its capabilities are and what its features are. And it's not just going to be, it's going to have that broadcasting mechanism like it's always had. But there's going to be some cool things about it. So ATSC 3.0 is something I think you should keep your eye on. I'll put a link in the description of this video to the latest newsletter from atsc.org. And then I want to talk about why I think. So I'm going to talk about some of the features that are cooking, that are in the works there. The other big thing, kind of related to this, I'll put another link. So 2 news stories for you today. Is Norway plans to shut down its FM transmission. So they're just going to do away with FM and move to an all digital format. I can't remember exactly what it is, but you know, if you know the landscape of Norway, it's very mountainous, lots of valleys and peaks and all kinds of things that are bad for the transmission of signal. So they're doing away with FM technology for radio, and they're adopting I can't remember. It's definitely a digital technology that is less susceptible to obstruction from mountains and valleys and all that fun stuff. So that's something to keep your eye on. But okay, that's what I really want to get into in the meat of this video is what is the big deal about ATSC 3.0. And I think the biggest reason why this is kind of like really cool for like AV geeks is it's changing how signal is broadcast. So ATSC 1.0 uses MPEG encoding, and it broadcasts using radio waves, and everything's encoded in MPEG, and there's bits of information that are basically sent over the airwaves, and the TV tower, you know, if it's strong enough, it'll reach your house, and you can set up an antenna and receive that signal and watch your HD TV. Well, with ATSC 3.0, you're still going to have the transmission over the air, but it's not going to be MPEG-2. It's going to be IP based. It's going to be packet based. And rather than streaming bits of information, they're going to stream essentially chunks of information, almost kind of like build in a buffer, so the signal can be more robust. And so with that, there's certain components in that TV station transmission that are going to need to be swapped out altogether to support the 3.0. But it's going to be a hybrid delivery, and by hybrid I mean it's going to be part broadcast like it's always been over the air, but then it's also going to have this ability to sync the information that comes over the air with broadband information that comes wired to your door, like over your, you know, through your internet, your ISP essentially. So think about this for a minute, because this is a completely new concept, at least as far as I'm aware of. This is pretty groundbreaking. The fact that the broadcast technology will essentially be an extension of the internet, and it will be able to sync up with features that are delivered over the internet, if you know what I mean. So imagine your TV station, you know, coming in over the air, and you know, you've also got your receiver on the internet somehow. Maybe it's got a Wi-Fi card, or it's got an Ethernet jack on the back. So you're getting the over-the-air signal. But if you want to get some extra features, you hook up your TV to your Wi-Fi. You hook up your TV to an Ethernet jack. And now let's say you want to get, you know, some crazy language that isn't supported over the air, because, you know, English is the primary language that everybody uses around here. Let's say you wanted Spanish, or you wanted Russian, or you wanted, you know, French, or whatever language you want. You can put your set-top box or your TV, not set-top box, I don't know why I said that. You put your receiver, whatever device you have that can get ATSC 3.0, put that on the internet. Now you can, you know, somehow log into the I don't know how it's going to work exactly, and I don't think that the people designing it still don't know exactly how it's going to work, but the theory is you'll be able to basically have an expanded feature set. The end user will have an expanded feature set based on whatever the broadcaster wants to offer. And so that opens up the possibilities to all kinds of things. And I just recorded a podcast with my buddy Pat, who works at a TV station, and he works for Comcast Sportsnet, and he's a broadcast engineer there. And he was saying how, like, this past big football game between Alabama and Clemson, ESPN really went all out, and they had, you could listen to the Alabama hometown announcers. You could listen to the Clemson hometown announcers. You could listen to just a group of college coaches on a third-party site somewhere commenting on the game, or you could listen to the announcers that the networks chose. So you had all these different options. So imagine things like that, where you're watching the Super Bowl, and you want to hear the Super Bowl in Chinese or something like that, or you want to hear the Super Bowl in Spanish, or you want to hear the Super Bowl in whatever language you want. So it opens up the door for broadcasters to do all kinds of different things to cater to the individual. And this hybrid approach between broadband and broadcast is really, I think, innovative and can do a lot of different things. Now, with that, so you get an expanded feature set for the end user, and that's how ATSC 3.0. That's how the ATSC.org, the committee, that's how they want to sell it to the consumer. But on the flip side, what this is going to allow broadcasters to do is to greatly expand the ads that they sell to advertisers. Because if you think about, now they can custom tailor it, to each household based on their IP connection or their internet connection. Now they can serve up individual ads per household. So now this comes down to the collection of data, and why it's so important for these companies to collect your data and know who you are, what you're searching for, what you like, what you're interested in. Because once they have that information, the Comcast, the Verizons, the AT&Ts of the world, they know what you're looking for. They can serve you an ad based on your preferences. And that's not a new thing per se. I mean, I think we've all had that experience where you're searching for something on Amazon, and you find a little widget on Amazon, like a 3.5 millimeter audio cable or something. That's what I was looking for the other day. And I looked at it, I put it in my shopping cart. I'm like, okay, I'll come back to this later. I had to, do something else. And then I'm on Facebook later that day, and an ad is on Facebook for that exact little 3.5 millimeter connector that I was looking for. So imagine that, and that's the first time that happens to you. It's a little creepy because you're like, well, how did they know that? But it's because they're collecting your information, they're sharing it with other people, and they're selling it to other people, and that is being served to you as an ad, and somebody's paying for that. Amazon is paying Facebook to remind you, basically, that you put this item in your cart. And oh, by the way, I know you're on Facebook right now, but remember that item you put in your cart? You're going to want to go back and buy that. Excuse me. So, that type of thing right now is just kind of limited to web browsing and stuff like that. That's going to start happening on TV. So imagine you're watching the game, with your family and friends or whatever. You're not seeing the same Super Bowl commercial that the whole country's seeing, right? You're seeing something geared towards you. So you better hope you weren't searching for some bad things on the internet, because I mean, I could definitely see this being I mean, the potential for what it could do is really interesting to watch and really interesting to think about. Because I mean, you imagine some young guy who's searching around on the internet looking at things he shouldn't look at, right? No, there's no guys out there that have ever done that, right? And you imagine you got your whole family over to watch the Super Bowl, and you get this like custom tailored dating ad for exotic women or something like that, and it just comes up in the Super Bowl. So I'm just saying that type of thing it's not far off. So you better, your search history is not private. I'm just going to say that right now. You better be careful what you're looking at, because someday it's going to come back, and chances are people are going to once that new. Now, this is all speculation. The standard is not set in stone. It's not even ratified yet, but I'm just saying, these are with innovation, when we keep pushing the limit, pushing the boundaries of what we can do, and sometimes there's unintended consequences that come along with that, and it completely changes the way people consume media and they're served commercials and ads and things like that. So just something to be thinking about, because really, I think the main, all this innovation is really cool, but I think the main driver for this is so that the TV stations can compete with content creators. And there's just so much content out there that you can consume. The TV stations are kind of shackled by the technology of 8 years ago. I mean, it's crazy to say that, but the digital, we just went from analog to digital 8 years ago. It wasn't that long, 2009, right? And yet that wasn't enough to keep up with how things are continuing to change in the consumer world and beyond. So the broadcasters need some tools to be competitive with things like Facebook Live, and I don't know if competitive is the right thing. I don't think any, maybe broadcasters aren't thinking how do we compete with Facebook Live per se, but so much content is just streamed over the top. You've got these two kind of concepts, over the air and over the top. Over the top is just anything over the internet, and you can get that delivered right to your TV nowadays, right? How many times do you, sit down and watch Netflix or Hulu or HBO Go or, whatever, where you're just logging into an app and you're watching the show? That's over the top, and you're not going through a broadcaster. You're going right directly. You've got your ISP and you've got your service provider, your content delivery network, whatever you choose, Netflix, whatever it may be. And so anyway, I think the broadcasting companies are trying to find ways to be innovative, competitive, to keep people's eyeballs watching their networks. And I think ATSC 3.0 is going to be one of the ways that they try to do that. So talked about, there's a lot of things we could talk about with ATSC 3.0. I think one of the other big ones, there's a lot of them. I mean, obviously it's going to be able to support 4K, Ultra HD, UHD content. They're going to try to work the standard so it's upgradable, so that in the future, if they want to go to 8K, they'll have bandwidth. They can mess with the bandwidth. So this is the other interesting thing. So they're going to try to target not just fixed devices, fixed receivers, but they're going to try to target mobile and fixed receivers. And the way that they're going to do that is by giving the broadcaster, the TV station, flexibility to choose how they use the bandwidth allotted to them in their channel. So there's this whole thing called the Shannon limit. And Claude Shannon was a scientist and a researcher for Bell Labs back in, I think he had his big breakthroughs in the 1940s. But this guy, Claude Shannon, I believe I'm getting his name right. Correct me if I'm wrong. But Claude Shannon came up with this limit. Essentially, there's a limit to the amount of data that you can transfer over the air through radio waves. And there's this nice curve that he figured out where if you try to put too much data, it's just not physically possible. So there is actually even though it's over the air, they call it the physical layer. There's a physical limit to how much radio data, essentially RF signal, you can transmit over the air. And so Shannon was a big guy behind a lot of these breakthroughs, and a lot of the reasons why we do things the way we do now essentially is based off of his research. So interesting guy to look up. Excuse me. But if you take a look at what he did, so the ATSC 3.0 is basically using that limit, and they're basically setting up rules in the standard to allow them to play with their allotted bandwidth. I don't know how many megahertz or how many megabytes or gigabytes of data they've got to play with, but they've got a set chunk of data. And what they can either do is they can rearrange how they're transmitting it to cater to mobile devices that are moving, that need a more robust physical layer, or they can, and so when you do that, you're getting a more robust transmission, so it can pick up, so mobile devices can pick up the station on the move. However, what you sacrifice is video resolution. So there's like a trade-off. And on the opposite end of that spectrum, if you want to have the highest possible resolution, you can top load your data and how you're sending that signal out to cater towards the resolution. And when you do that, you sacrifice being able to pick up the station from a mobile standpoint. So essentially what you could do is if you had a station like like channel 7, for example, that's got digital 7 is 7-1 on your receiver, but then there's also a 7-2. They could potentially make 7-1 your 4K fixed channel, and that's what you watch when you're at home. They can make 7-2 kind of the mobile channel. So if you're driving around in your RV or whatever, you've got screens in your minivan in the back so the kids can watch, you can tune that into the mobile station, and it's not going to get the same resolution, but it's going to have a more robust setup so that you can receive that signal on the go. So I think that's pretty innovative. That's pretty cool. And I almost compare it to, so if what I just explained to you makes no sense, I kind of relate it to when you're making an MP3. You can either have a really high quality MP3 that takes up a lot of storage, a lot of megabytes, or you can have a low quality MP3 that you can convert faster, but it's lower quality. It takes up less storage space, less megabytes on your hard drive. It's faster to encode, but it's also lower quality. So it's almost like that kind of sliding scale. And I think just like the MP3 thing is something we can all relate to, because there's 100, 112, 128, 256, 320. People kind of know those kind of KBS bits and bytes. That's that. I don't know. That's maybe people don't think about MP3s and bits and bytes anymore because they just buy them from Amazon or iTunes or whatever. But I thought that was a pretty good example. So anyway, those are the big things about ATSC 3.0. And now I am absolutely sitting standstill in traffic. Oh boy. Let's see. What else? What other news was there about ATSC 3.0? It's got this bootstrapping thing that they're trying to work in there, where there's going to be essentially a bootstrap where every device that has an ATSC 3.0 tuner in it will be able to be woken up for emergency alerts. So, I mean, you think of how many movies have you watched where they have this? All the TVs just come on everywhere. I mean, that's essentially what they're trying to do here, is for like emergency situations. They'll be able to send out the signal. The bootstrap will wake up the TV from sleep mode. It'll turn on. It'll turn to the right channel, and you will get your emergency alert that there's a F5, whatever they call it. What's that? So there's tornadoes? I'm getting confused. A T is the F5. The F numbers are for hurricanes, right? Isn't there like a T scale for tornadoes? Or is it also an F scale, but a different F scale? An F5. I don't know. Whatever the strongest hurricane is, they'll be able to say, hey, there's a big storm coming your way. It's time to evacuate, and it'll just come up on your TV. Now I can see how that would be helpful. I can also see how that would be annoying if you don't want that alert. But anyway, it's going to have that bootstrap technology, possibly. Again, all this is in the works. So this is news for you to look out for, future news about ATSC 3.0. There's got to be some other things. So I already talked about the interactive features. It's going to be hybrid delivery of broadband broadcast. Be able to serve up ads. You get all kinds of custom things. 4K, UHD. Yeah. That's about it. Keep an eye out for ATSC 3.0. Hey, if you've got thoughts about this, feel free to email me, nate@livesound101.com, or you can simply reply in the comment section to this video, or you can head over to the community, LiveSound 101 on Google+. Nice little community with 400 and something people over there talking about Pro AV and live sound and all kinds of fun stuff. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.